Have you ever watched a show or movie and at the end kind of felt like your brain exploded? You know, like the show or movie encompassed such deep and complex thoughts that it just took your brain a minute to comprehend it all. I experienced that recently and it kind of got me thinking. One of the main reasons this happens is usually because the show is actively trying to make a serious point. That point is also mixed in with all of the things that kind of make a show interesting to watch, making it an overwhelming viewing experience. But I came up with a solution. I selected 5 pieces of media all centering around a specific message. Now, normally in videos like this, I would go about explaining all of the amazing, wonderful reasons as to why you should watch these shows. But I feel like that's really obvious. They're good. Instead, I want to focus on the message in which these shows are trying to portray, so that if you do eventually end up watching them, you can just sit back and enjoy the content for what it is, already having the message in mind. So with that being said, let's introduce today's topic. Have you ever noticed as a society how we always seem to be chasing the next new thing in tech? I mean, personally, I'm a software engineer, so I'm constantly surrounded around the pressure to make technology newer, better, and smarter. But sometimes I take a step back and kind of question, where do we draw the line? So I thought it'd be fun to explore how far is too far in technology, using some shows, movies, and anime that I've kind of seen push that boundary. With the success and popularity of ChatGPT, we've seen an uprise in the development of artificial intelligence, also known as AI. But are we truly prepared to handle all of the consequences that come with advancing in this area? The 2013 sci-fi film Her explores this concept through the story of Theodore, who becomes enamored with a new operating system that has the ability to develop its own consciousness. Now I know what you're thinking. Daijah, that sounds a little odd. And yeah, you'd be right. It most definitely is one of those movies where at the end you're kind of like, what did I just watch? But it really does bring forth some really important conversations that need to be had around developing in the AI space. AI technology for now is designed to kind of be similar to a digital assistant, which is exactly how Theodore initially treats his original operating system prior to the new one. When Theodore ends up grabbing this new OS that has the ability to truly think on its own, it starts to push our idea of what can be defined as a living entity. And that idea is something that Her kind of grapples with representing. And even as a viewer, it really makes you start to question your own thoughts and feelings on the matter. As the movie goes on, it really starts to expand your mind on the uses and experiences of that new operating system, bringing to light the importance of us considering what exactly is our definition of a living entity prior to introducing and or creating any AI that might have capability of developing its own consciousness. When it comes to the ethics of metahumans, you might be immediately drawn to asking the question of whether or not a person should ever become one. But the 2022 Netflix sci-fi anime Cyberpunk's Edgerunners takes a different approach. Instead, it chooses to question how, when added, these modifications might affect the user. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a complementary anime to the game Cyberpunk. It explores the journey of David as he strives to become an edgerunner in a world full of corruption and brain chip implants. Without spoiling, I think this anime does an amazing job of demonstrating how when adding technological modifications to your body, it can truly affect your mind and ego. I mean, at first glance of the show, it looks really cool to be connected in technology in the way in which you are able to have all of these new abilities and conveniences. But from a deeper perspective, you start to realize that these metahumans aren't exactly bound by the same laws of nature as we are. And when talking about this within the overall concept of metahumans in general, it really brings attention as to how this technology could affect someone's behavior. I mean, look at some of the richest people we know. They tend to do some very questionable things just because they have the ability to do so. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some amazing benefits that can come with becoming a metahuman, and Cyberpunk does well to demonstrate those. However, there are consequences to every action. And I think when it comes to deciding whether or not we should actually create metahumans, there should be a consideration of should we rather than can we when it comes to demonstrating how this technology can be used. For the most most part, when it comes to virtual reality, also known as VR, we typically associate it with gaming. But as we grow in this area, have we truly considered the ways in which this technology could be used for harm? The 2022 Amazon Prime sci-fi drama The Peripheral explores that and more. This show takes place in a future where people can use VR to access a virtual world called Heaven, told through the experience of Flynn and her interest to support and protect herself and her family. I found this show really captures the ways in which even the simplest of technologies could possibly be used for harm. At the moment, VR is severely limited in its capabilities, but as we start to rise in our digital footprint, there is quite the potential for VR to be manipulated and used, which is exactly what The Peripheral explores in its messaging about privacy and abuse of power and VR technologies. If I'm being honest, with all of the technologies that I'm mentioning today, there are some serious considerations that need to be made about privacy and how to manage the abuse of the system beyond their intended use. I mean, just look at the societal lessons that we've learned from social media. But I digress. In the context of The Peripheral, there is actual value and power associated with the uses and experiences in VR, which significantly increase the ways to abuse it. However, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to develop and explore all of the different ways in which VR technology could be useful. Instead, The Peripheral really highlights the importance of considering not only how we intend technology to be used during development, but also the ways in which it could be manipulated. Moving away from the actual technology itself, there is one major consequence that all technologies share and or could lead to, which is exploitation. But in their exploitation, who ends up getting affected the most? A great exploration of this is the 1975 sci-fi thriller movie, The Stepford Wives. Yes, I said 1975. There was a reboot, but we don't talk about that. This movie follows the experience of Joanna as she and her family moved to a picture-perfect town with a dark secret. Now, the exploration of technology refers to the negative occurrences that happen when technology is used to either control or harm individuals or groups. And this movie does an amazing job of highlighting two main reasons why that might occur. One, representation, and two, choice. To avoid revealing too much about the movie itself, I'll use an example to explain what I mean here. Let's say you're a software developer fixing a problem related to cars. You approach this problem from your own personal experience. You push it out to the market, and there's a large number of people who do actually appreciate and enjoy your product. So it then becomes a standard. Everyone who needs to use a car must now use this service. Here's the problem. There is still a diverse set of people who have this problem whose needs are not met by your solution. But your solution didn't take that into account. It's also been mandated that your solution is now the new norm. And that diverse set of people whose problem isn't actually solved by your solution are now forced to use your solution just because everyone else does. It takes away not only their representation in the matter, but their choice. And that's an issue that Stepford Wives kind of highlights in its storytelling, is making sure that no matter what we create, we are always considering who might be affected by it even before you start developing a single piece of technology. The Doomsday Effect is a concept by which a largely impactful event caused by environmental, technological, or social factors ends up causing the end of civilization and or humanity. And one show that demonstrates this concept amazingly well is a 2019 HBO miniseries, Years and Years. This series shows the social, technical, and political progression of the world in 15 years, centered through the lens of an ordinary British family as they struggle with the consequences. Their journey really enforces the idea of technology being able to be manipulated by terrible people with terrible motives. It really demonstrates how complacency in the face of changes can lead to some severely damaging outcomes. Oftentimes, when the newest and coolest tech releases, we're extremely quick to hop on the bandwagon and advertise and support all of its cool new features. And while I share in the enthusiasm, I think there's something also to be said for those who have apprehension as well, which kind of leads me as to why I question how far is too far in technology. We are present in a very pivotal time in history when it comes to the technology that we possess and the abilities that we have to move it forward. But if we're not careful, we could seriously start traveling on a path where the biggest problems that we have in society would not be limited to climate crisis political discourse or racial injustice, but also include technological progression as well. Now, I'm not saying that technology is bad or that you should stop buying and using it, because one, that's impractical, and two, that would make me severely hypocritical considering it's what allows me to be on your screen at this moment. Instead, I'm saying that along with everything else you consume in a day, don't forget to pay attention to the progression of the device that you're consuming it on. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any feelings or opinions about any of the shows, movies, or topics that I touched in this video, leave them down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm also open to suggestions if you feel like my delivery needs a little bit of work. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want more. If you're interested in anime, check out my last video on 10 underrated anime that you must watch. And until my next video, bye.